Time for me to update my new 48 team bracket for the NCAA tournament. Let's go. What's going on, everybody? It's me again, Golden Blue Dude, and if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. I do videos every single day, sometimes college football and sometimes college basketball. The best way to support the channel, hit the subscribe button. Today I'm updating my personal 48 team bracket if the tournament were to happen today. Two things. Number one, 48 teams, because I'm not projecting any automatic bids from champions from leagues that I don't know much about. Not going to do that. Number two, this is as of today. Games are going to happen and things are going to change. So my 48 team bracket is based on how teams look right now. Baylor, I think they've played tougher teams and I think they look better than Gonzaga. So I'm going to give Baylor the number one overall seed. They are 14-0 out of the Big 12. The 2 seed is going to be Alabama out of the SEC, 14-3. This team can shoot the ball really, really well, and they're getting hot at the right time. The 3 seed in this region is going to be Wisconsin. They're 12-3 out of the Big 10. They've had some ups and downs, but this is a really good team capable of beating Baylor or Gonzaga. The 4 seed is going to be Virginia Tech out of the ACC. They're 11-3. Again, ups and downs, but they've beaten some pretty good teams. The 5 seed is going to be Kansas. They're 10-5 out of the Big 12. Right now, they're on a 3-game losing streak, so they fell from my 3 spot down to my 5 spot. The 6th seed is going to be UCLA out of the Pac-12. They're 12-3, and right now they are the best team in the Pac-12. The 7th seed, this one might surprise you, out of the Ohio Valley, Belmont. They're 16-1. This is a good team. They could pull some upsets when they get to the tournament, and I do expect them to get to the real tournament. The 8th seed, out of the ACC, a resurging North Carolina. They're 11-5. They're starting to get hot. Maybe they can get hot at the right time and get a higher seed, but right now I have them as an 8th seed. The 9th seed, out of the A10, St. Bonaventure, 8-1. They're at the top of the A10. I can't deny that. I put them in at the 9th seed. The 10th seed, out of the Big Sky, Southern Utah, 11-3. They don't have any massive wins, but the good teams that they have played, they've played them pretty good. The 11th seed, out of Conference USA, UAB, they're 12-2, not at the top of Conference USA, but really close. And then the 12th seed is going to be UConn out of the Big East, 8-3. They've hit a little bit of a bump as of recently, I believe a 2-game losing streak, but they're still a decent team. Now let's go on to Region 2. The number 1 seed, Gonzaga, 15-0. They are a really, really good team. I just don't think they're the number 1 overall team right now. Number 2 in this region is going to be Virginia out of the ACC. They're 11-2. They got off to a sluggish start at the beginning of the season, including getting massively upset by San Francisco. They've rebounded nicely. Of course, this team is known for their defense, but I think in order to go deep in the tournament this year, they're going to have to find some offense. There's too many good offenses out there. Number 3 in this region, out of the Big 10, Ohio State. They're 12-4. They've got some good wins, not really any bad losses. They could climb higher. They look like a good team. Number 4 in this region is going to be Creighton out of the Big East. They're 11-4. They've taken a couple of hits recently, so they've fallen a little on my line, but they're still holding steady. Number 5 in this region, out of the ACC, Louisville. They're 10-3. They just got ranked, but I think they're better than that number 25 ranking, but they will get tested. Number 6, out of the SEC, Tennessee. They're 11-3, so their record's not bad, but recently they haven't looked right, so they could go on a major slide. I'm keeping my eye on Tennessee. Number 7, out of the Mountain West, Boise State. They are 13-1, only 1 loss at the top of the Mountain West, so I had to put them in there. Number 8, out of the Pac-12, USC. They're 12-3. The Pac-12 is down this year, and it's very competitive they're at the top of the Pac-12. We'll see if they can stay there. Number 9 out of the A10, VCU. They're 11-4, and I remember when they played West Virginia, they gave them a good game. West Virginia eventually pulled away, but VCU, don't underestimate them. They can be a very dangerous team come tournament time. Number 10 in this region, out of the SEC, Arkansas. They're 12-4. The SEC is very bunched up right now. Not very many ranked teams in the SEC, but it's very competitive, and Arkansas is doing pretty well. I think they'll make the tournament, the real tournament. Number 11 out of the ACC, Clemson, 9-4. At one point, they were number 12 in the nation, but they've gone on a 3-game losing streak, and they've fallen completely out of the top 25. I still have them barely in my tournament, but if they keep losing, they could be knocked all the way out. Number 12, also out of the Mountain West, Colorado State. They're 11-3. They're right up there with Boise State, but I gave them a lower seed because they have a few more losses than Boise State. Region 3, the 1 seed, Michigan, 13-1 out of the Big Ten. They look like a really good team. I think Michigan can go deep in the real tournament. The 2 seed, also out of the Big Ten, Iowa. They're 12-3. They used to be a 1 seed, but they grabbed a couple of losses, so they have slid down to the 2 seed. The 3 seed out of the Big 12, West Virginia. They're 11-4. I had them at my 5 seed, but a couple of good wins, and it bumped them up to the 3 spot. The 4 seed out of the ACC, Florida State. They're 9-2, only 2 losses. They've had some COVID issues, just like everybody else. But I think Florida State's a legit team. They have a great offense, but they will be tested. Number 5, out of the Big 12, Oklahoma. They're 10-4. They are grabbing some big wins as of recently, so they have risen dramatically in my seeding. Number 6, Minnesota, out of the Big 10. They're 11-5. They've actually done the opposite. They've grabbed a couple of stupid losses, so they've actually fallen in my seedings. Number 7, out of the Big South, Winthrop. They're 15-0. They're undefeated. How can I not put that team in my tournament? Of course I am. And I think they're better than a lot of these other teams that have 4 and 5 losses. The 8 seed out of the Big 12, Oklahoma State. They're 10-4. They're kind of right there in the middle, but Oklahoma State is a very dangerous team. They're going to upset some good teams. The 9 seed out of Conference USA, Western Kentucky. They're 13-4. West Virginia, my team, has directly played this team, and they actually had an 11-point lead on West Virginia at one point. They're playing good in Conference USA. They're at the top of Conference USA, and that's why I have them as the 9 seed in Region 3. The 10 seed out of the SEC, LSU. They're 11-4. They're hanging in there. 4 losses, that's not a lot. They're climbing up in the rankings in the SEC. We'll see if they can finish near the top. The 11 seed out of the Patriot. It's going to be Navy, 10-2. Only 2 losses. They haven't played quite as many games as most of these teams, but still a decent record with 10-2. And then the 12 seed out of the A10, St. Louis. I had them much higher, but they grabbed that loss, and coming out of COVID, they didn't look right. So I didn't knock them out of the tournament. They're at 7-2, so a decent record, but I have them only as a 12 seed right now. Finally, Region 4, the 1 seed, Villanova. Out of the Big East, they're 10-1. They need more depth for me to be more confident in this seeding. They're a good team, don't get me wrong, great coach, but they need more depth. Number 2, out of the AAC, Houston, 13-1. They have some good wins, only 1 loss. Top of the AAC, the problem is their conference isn't really all that strong. The 3 seed out of the Big 12, Texas, they're 11-3. They just grabbed a loss against Oklahoma. I had them as a 2 seed, and I had to drop them to a 3 seed. The 4 seed out of the SEC, Missouri, they're 10-3. A big win over Tennessee, looking halfway decent, climbing up in the seedings this week. The 5 seed out of the Big 12, Texas Tech. They're 11-5. I had them as a 3 or 4 seed. I can't quite remember, but they dropped down to a 5 seed. They lost to West Virginia on the road by 1 point, but still 11-5 isn't going to keep you in a top 4 seeding. The 6th seed out of the Big 10, Illinois. They're 10-5. They have these long stretches of win streaks, and then they'll hit 2 or 3 losses in a row. That's why they have those 5 losses. They could be much higher because Illinois is a good team. It's just when they do catch a loss, it seems like they catch them in bunches. The 7th seed out of the Missouri Valley, Drake, they're 14-0. They're also undefeated. Of course, I'm going to put them in my brackets. The 8th seed out of the Big East, Xavier. They're 10-2. They've had some COVID issues, but they look like a solid team. The 9 seed, the only other team out of the West Coast besides Gonzaga, and that's BYU. They're 13-3. Number 10, out of the Ohio Valley, Eastern Kentucky. They're 13-2. That's a great record. They're a pretty good team. The 11 seed, out of the Pac-12, Colorado, 12-4. Pac-12 is so-so. They're barely in my brackets as a low seed. In the 12 seed, out of the MAC, Toledo, 14-4. If they can keep those losses from piling up, then they should be able to make the tournament. They're at the top of the MAC. We'll see if they can win the MAC championship to get in the real dance. That's all I got for you for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.